All right, good morning. This is Jack O'Keefe with Deb Rooney, our Director of Academic Support, and Megan Leahy, who is our Principal Fellow, joining us from the Boston College Lynch School of Leadership. We're going to be talking about academic supports this morning. We were just saying, as we're competing with CNN and all sorts of other vote tallies coming in, this might be a little bit more of a presentation that people will access later, but we're happy to see everyone coming in this morning and hearing about some of the things that we're doing at BC, not at BC, my goodness, everyone needs to get some sleep, at Catholic Memorial as we get started this year. Some of the things we're seeing, I think one thing that Deb, Megan, and I really want to accomplish as best as we can this morning, there's definitely, just due to the nature of the hybrid and the pandemic, there are less of those opportunities to kind of bounce things off another parent, and this is what I'm seeing and what have you heard. We kind of want to be as transparent as we can about what we're seeing on our end and some of the things that we want to do to address these things. And then, obviously we'd love to hear your feedback, but as much as we can, we want to, give you some of those tools. And then if there's something that you're seeing at home and you just kind of want to, hey, this looks a little bit different. It's a different year, obviously. So we're sort of working through all that. So I don't know, Deb and Megan, do you just want to introduce yourselves really quick?
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Deb Rooney, and I'm the Director of Academic Support. This is my third year at Catholic Memorial, and it's been great. I will say that everyone, given all the changes that we've all encountered, the amount of teamwork from the faculty and administration has been amazing. That's really then transcended to all the support and making sure the kids are engaged and supported and feel connected during, kind of being here, not being here, how that works. So, and from my perspective, from what I see and just the boys, I think the boys are very happy to be at school when they are at school, and given the opportunities to engage on some level. And it's been interesting, but I myself am still on the learning curve with technology.
Hi, everyone. I'm Megan Leahy, and as Jack mentioned, I am a principal fellow at CM this year. This is my first year at CM, and as part of this program, I'm also teaching one section of Spanish 2, split between silver and red every day, and I am doing a series of professional development days that are outside, that are with Boston College, that kind of relate to experiences in school, and working with teachers, observing teachers, just sort of the whole gamut. I'm trying to learn as much as I can about being a principal. And yesterday, actually, I spent a large part of the day via Zoom on a professional day surrounding parent and family engagement. And so I am super interested in sort of all things parent and family engagement, events like this, and anything else that we can think about implementing to cement that connection that we have with our families.
Perfect. And, like I said, I'm Jack O'Keefe at the beginning, so I'm the Director of Counseling at Catholic Memorial. We offer these counselor coffees every week. So far, they've been mostly for junior and senior parents as we've been thinking about the college process. Now we're past that big November 1st early deadline. So we're going to be shifting and we're doing more things that apply to the entire student body. And then, so as Megan is talking about parent engagement, we love having these conversations, and we love especially creating opportunities for connection in the year that some of those connections are maybe a little bit more forced than they've been in the past, where it can feel a little bit more natural, organic. And Megan, I think maybe I want to just start asking you, as someone who is new to CM and who, obviously we're all new to the hybrid, but even though these last few months are kind of feeling like years, and maybe even the last 12 hours feel like a couple of years, what trends are you noticing so far, with a fresh set of eyes? What are some of the things that you're seeing, and what is giving you optimism in this moment of, academic difficulty, let's say?
Sure. Even in my own class, let's say, I'm noticing more so than before, because we're in this hybrid model, it's creating it's like a little bit disjointed, and it's taken a long time for students to get used to, and honestly for teachers to get used to too. It's been strange to not see everyone every day. But as we've adjusted, I've really realized that the connection to home and parents and teachers connecting and being on the same page about a student's progress is super important. And so with every email that I get from a parent, it's so important. I love that connection. Just being on the same page has really, I've seen it propel student success in a couple individual cases. And I think I would love to bring a little bit more of that to the entire student body.
And as Megan's talking about that student success model and just kind of the way that we're looking at everything too, again, it's the morning after election day. There's been a lot of poll watching on our team, that student success team, which is a mix of counselors. Deb Rooney's on it. The administrators are on it. There's been a lot of, okay, we're finally getting some hard data about this hybrid, and that we had Q4 last year academically was aberrational. Everyone's online. What did we learn from that? Trying to look at kind of this year, year over year. What does this year look like from last year? What I would say in terms of like, as a parent, as you're experiencing things, something that we're seeing very early on is that there are some students who are doing very well with this and that have sort of like adapted to the pacing of things. And then there's some students who are really struggling with this. And I think some of those struggles, some of those successes are bigger than we've seen in the past, and some of those struggles are bigger than we've seen in the past. So the last 2 weeks has been a lot of really close data watching and also planning some of those interventions for the second quarter where, okay, we didn't know what the hybrid was going to be in August. Like, we didn't know what the results of that were going to be. We're seeing some of those results now, and how do we adapt to those? So it's what I like about being at CM is the data-driven organization that is very adaptable as that data comes in. And there's a lot of people who, it's not really feelings at, institution. It's really a place of what do the numbers say? And then what are some of the things that we can do to support those numbers? And Deb, as we're thinking about some of those students where maybe, hey, I'm struggling in 3 different classes right now. And so far things have been, I've been okay, but now I'm struggling in 3 classes or 4 classes, or maybe it's just that 1 class. Your great strength has always been in academic support, executive functioning coaching, teaching organizational skills, like some of those things that are really necessary in this moment. Maybe what kind of strategies could you give, blanket strategies overall, that could help almost any kid?
So I think what's important is that their environment at home, and I know it's hard because everybody's at home, is that the kids have a set place somewhere that's more central, not off, and not off in an area that they can kind of check out and relax, that it gives a parent more, just checking in, making sure things are you, how's it going? And hear kind of what's going on. So I think location is important. I think environment is just kind of the foundation, which I'm sure all the parents know and recognize, as they have their own home offices. And that I think another component is also that the kids keep track. So what I'm seeing is that, particularly say with the freshmen or sophomores, that they, not only is it just a new experience because everything's so different than middle school and 10th grade's different than, 9th grade, is that, oh my gosh, how do I keep track of all this? And support I had before isn't there anymore, but it shouldn't be there because I'm older. So another piece is making sure that they write things down, or that they even keep it on their computer, that everything's listed out, because then things aren't due the next day, or they need to kind of monitor if I'm given an assignment on Monday, but it's not due to Thursday, do I really want to do it on Wednesday night at 8:00 and I forgot and can't find everything, and then panic sets in and chaos erupts. So I think that's important, of having them keep track. Something else is that I have found, my children are older, but that I personally found as a parent really helpful, is that I know some families have family calendars so that everybody knows what people are doing. And I think it's beneficial for parents and for kids to kind of, carve out a half an hour, 15 minutes on a Sunday, just saying, okay, what's going on? Here's what we have. Holidays are coming up. You've got events you need to attend. You're not, when the kids find out, no, you're not going to get out of. So if you do have a project on Monday, you still need to go to your great grandmother's, event because we're going to drive by and wish her happy birthday. They need to know. Or it's not uncommon for kids to say have a dentist appointment. They didn't know they had it. Then they don't get to work on a group project. So I think it keeps everybody in the know. And as a parent, I found it helpful because it was a way for me to find out, well, you've got tests and quizzes, but what, I have a meeting for work and I can't help you and that kind of stuff. So I personally found that extremely helpful. And just in general, as much as what I'm finding, as much as this is so different, there's been so many fabulous benefits to kids learning this now in high school, because their world of education is completely different and going to be completely different as they get older. My children being in college had to kind of learn on the fly at the college level. And they don't like Zoom. They don't like doing all that. But what they have found is that both of them have said, one's a boy, one's a girl, is that it would have been easier had they had this happen when they were younger, because they would have had more support. They would have been home. They would have had just know the players, I guess, instead of on their own figuring out how to organize themselves in this kind of environment. So that's my advice as a teacher, as well as just what it was like on the home front.
I think that's fantastic. And obviously, as we're all in, what is this, month 7 or 8 of the pandemic, wherever we are right now, I think a large part of the conversation is, hey, there's some different tricks for the toolbox, things that maybe you're trying already, or you could try a little bit differently, or things, we could experiment with. And Megan, I think you spoke to it earlier when we were talking about that parent engagement, because when we're thinking about a hybrid model, the theoretically very positive thing as we think about that is, hey, this is great. As a parent, I get to be alongside my child's learning, and I'm thinking of this as the parent of a 5-year-old, and hey, I'm helping them learn this, and I get to be walking right alongside them. The reality of everything that we've all experienced now is this is just incredibly logistically difficult for us as parents, for our students, to balance the many things that we have going on in our lives. And as positive as it all sounds, that feeling of, oh my goodness, am I teaching my kids Spanish now, is like a crushing feeling for parents. So like Deb talked about a couple strategies or tools. Like, what kind of advice would you give to parents as they're looking at that balance between supporting your kid, but also, the logistic challenges?
So I totally agree with Deb on that, the theory of a weekly meeting to kind of plan for what's coming up, what deadlines a student has. When you meet with your son, you can also get a sense of what classes he enjoys, what classes are harder for him, just like a connection, so that you also have a sense of what's going on for him educationally. You can also take a look at on campus. That's an opportunity for you to look with your son, check his progress too, to see what assignments and grades have been posted and things like that. And I just want to reiterate, Jack, you just made me think of it's hard. I've worked as an academic advisor, teacher, and dorm parent for this age group of boys. And it's I know it's hard. I know it's hard to kind of pull them out of their shell and sit down and meet with them. And I know it's like pulling teeth at first, and it could be a little weird, but if it's a set habit that becomes sort of the norm of how you connect with your son about his education, it gets easier and easier. And then the theory is too that his sort of trajectory with completing things and staying organized gets easier and easier. So I know it would require some investment up front on a parent's part. And we're here to help. I know how hard it is. I know Spanish is not easy. If you don't know Spanish, how can you teach Spanish, right? But all the teachers want to connect with all the parents to support you in all that stuff. We're not two separate entities anymore. If we ever really were before, we are definitely in this more together than we ever have been. And so I'm really interested in talking with parents about what supports they might need in supporting their son at home. So, that's a discussion we can have.
And we might sound like a broken record with all three of us kind of saying the same thing about this weekly meeting. And one of the reasons that we're kind of pushing that, or maybe not pushing, nudging that, it is, we have all probably had the experience right now where your child comes home from school, you say to them, how was your day today? And they say fine, or they were on remote learning, or they were doing online classes. And it is tiring. Like in our school day, we have more breaks, but we don't really have that downtime that we used to have to process. High school boys are going to say fine. They're going to give you those one-word answers. And especially, it can be helpful to look through a grade book that's on campus and say like, hey, I saw you missed your homework there. Your kid is just like you. At the end of the day, they probably want to zone out and just sort of let that go. A Saturday or Sunday meeting where it's more of a, hey, we're going to set aside time. We're going to talk about what's going on in your classes. We'll see what the progress is, and we'll go from there. So your son is prepared for it. We don't want to get into that defensive place or kind of a deficit mindset of what are the things I don't have that all of a sudden are coming at me when I'm in that moment of exhaustion. So, we keep on saying that. And as Megan said, if you want to, every student is in a different place of progress right now, that it could be, you might be in a triage situation where it's really, okay, quarter one was a disaster, and now I really need to come up with a plan for Q2 and what's going to change there. And then, Deb, maybe this is a good time to kind of pivot to you. Maybe without defining what underperformed is, I don't want to put a number on it or say underperforming is X, but as a parent, you probably have that feeling of, okay, this isn't going the way that I want it to. If someone has underperformed, what supports or strategies does CM offer that we can partner with a parent to help pull their son out of that hole?
Yes, I want to answer that question, and I want to piggyback what Megan said too, that my own personal experience was, Mom, it's fine. It's all under control. It's good, and you don't need to worry, and nobody's doing this. So if that's what you get as answers when you approach all this with your son, then you can say, well, Miss Rooney said, so go take it up with Miss Rooney and tell her why we don't need to do it. You can
all three of us. Use all three of us.
Yeah. But it's okay. We can take the hit because we don't live with them. But don't be surprised if that's what you get as answers, having been given those answers repeatedly many times. So what? Oh, I like the thumbs up. Yes, 100%. It's all good, Mom. What's to worry? So I did want to say that. And one other thing that I did not mention is that I'm finding that the kids are having difficulty with knowing, do I turn it in person? Do I turn it in online? So as they write things down and kind of have a list of even their schedule, what I've had my own students do is on their schedule, it's on their desktop or hanging in their room, they write down if the teacher wants in person or on campus or in some other way. That way, it's constant reminders how they're going to submit work. So I meant to add that as I just keep rattling on. But to answer your question, Jack, I think the support that we have at CM, if your son is having difficulty, I strongly recommend he email the teacher. I think it's really hard because of shifting things, getting out of a class, moving on. And I tell the kids it's a paper trail. So it is in your benefit to reach out to your teacher via email, schedule a meeting, even if it's something that they don't want to do and they get nervous, which I completely understand. And if they're if they don't get a response or they're kind of like worried about it, they could CC their guidance counselor, because I think that then is another person who's also then aware of, this is great that Johnny reached out to his geometry teacher. I'm so glad at least I was kept in the loop. So I think it's not that there's anything bad or wrong. I just think, one, I think that's an important skill that kids need to have. But I think that's kind of the starting point. Meet with the teacher, find out what's going on. Then there's the time of, okay, what exactly am I struggling with? Is this something that my parents can then maybe email the guidance counselor? Is it more challenging issues that then we need to then address, and maybe have them meet with me, talk to me, whatever support. I think the more contact, and I think it's important for parents, if they're seeing something, to reach out. The thing that I tell all students is homework is in their control, 100%. So you may have a test, you may have a quiz and not do as well as you had hoped, but their level of participation and their homework is something that they can get 100% on, given that they turn it in. And so that grade is kind of like, okay, at least I know I can control it and I'm going to take care of it. Everything else, I'm just going to do my best. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, I absolutely. And I also think that, as we're talking about all of these organizational things that we're talking about, a calendar or a list, whatever is ultimately working for your son and your family, something that I often am making a recommendation about, and I mean, I'm an Excel spreadsheet guy, but the reality is that for many of you, your son might go through 6 different classes and he has an on-campus login and a Zoom login and like a Quizlet or a Kahoot or a Membean or like all of these different sites that might go along with it. Turn it in, like there's creating some type of a spreadsheet, and again, this could be something that your son does with a counselor. It could be something that you do at home. It could be something they do with Miss Rooney, and just basically like, let's get it all in one, file that I know exactly where I'm looking. I'm going to English class. This is my login for Membean. This is my login for Turnitin. This is where my essay is supposed to go. I think that clarity is one of the things that helps people. And as we're kind of thinking of that Q1 to Q2 transition, like Megan, what are some of the things that you advise students on as they're making that transition into the new quarter?
Something else I was thinking about is, actually, ironically, in about 5 minutes, I'm going to go present to faculty for PD Day about organization and meeting with yourself and keeping track. Like, we're doing the exact same thing. Adults struggle with this too. I do too. And so I've been working on that habit of a weekly meeting with myself. But another component to that is sort of setting a long-term goal. And so a goal, I've worked with students and we've set some goals, but it's like, I want to get an A in this class, and that's fine. But like I push back in those conversations and say, okay, well, like, what would get you there? What's a micro goal? What's a goal that you have that is outside of a grade when it comes to school? Do you want to participate in the class every day? Do you want to improve your test average over the next quarter? Looking to not just like this one finite A, if you will, but like micro goals to get a student there, and focusing on like ways to make all that stuff attainable. And so a goal I would love to set with some students is just like, okay, I'm gonna make sure that I turn in everything on time. That would be a great goal for me to have for my classes. I want to make sure that everyone's turning in everything on time, because then I can turn around and grade it in a timely way and give students the feedback that they need to be prepared for the next thing. So micro goals are super useful.